Alrighty, guys, welcome back. It's your host, ID Chester. So, what if I was in charge? What if I was the man that made the decisions? And that's the way it should be, right? We all know that's the way it should be. But especially with the Board Game Geek Top 100 list. What if I was in charge of Board Game Geek and I was able to remove certain games or give them my own score? As we all know, if you are familiar with Board Game Geek, it's a great site. It gets a lot of people into the board gaming community and it gives a lot of information, and it's really good site. So this is nothing against Board Game Geek. Don't get me wrong. This is not a let's bash on Board Game Geek. That is not what we're talking about in this episode at all. What we're doing is we're just having fun with saying, here's the top 100 list from Board Game Geek. If we were able to just remove 10 games that we didn't like off the list, and we were able to add in 10 games that we did like, what games would we take on the list? And what games would we add to the list? So, I went in this thinking to myself, here's the issue with the Board Game Geek 100 top 100 is that it is a segment of board gaming that has been fine-tuned to a certain dynamic that people accept. What I mean by that is if you look at most of the games on the top 100 or the top 200 or top 300, most of the games are Euro games. Most of the games are medium to heavyweight Euro games with lots of Euro mechanics in the systems. Most of them deal with multiple different, using multiple different action systems and action placement, pawns, and everything to get the player to do certain things during their turn. Usually the games take between 2 to 4 hours to complete. They're usually big, heavy games that take 3 to 5 people. Not every game. No, not every single solitary one. But most of them are like that. And the reason for that is because you have tons and tons of people voting for these games. And again, Board Game Geek community is based upon board game enthusiasts. These are not just, I sit down and play Monopoly with my wife a couple times a year. Those kind of people are not going to Board Game Geek to find out what the top 100 games of all time are. These are serious people. And if you're a serious gamer, you want a serious game. And if you want a serious game, you want a complex medium to heavyweight Euro game. That's just the nature of the beast, okay? And there's nothing wrong with anything I just said. Absolutely nothing wrong with anything I said. That's just the way the site was designed. That's the people that are there, and that's the outcome of what's there. And it's completely acceptable. And again, this is nothing against the people that are on Board Game Geek, and this is nothing against Board Game Geek in general. This is just to have fun and say, hey, what if we were able to take 10 games off the top 100 and try to fine-tune the top 100 and make it more of a round game? If you look at the top 100 list, I think you will be extremely shocked at the games that are in the top 100 of all time. I know I was, and that's the reason we're doing this, is because there are certain games and certain systems that appear on here way, way, way too much. And again, if you have a game and everybody loves this game, if you make another version of the game and everyone's going to love it, it's going to be ranked really, 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 really high. And there's nothing in Board Game Geek that says, oh, if this game is ranked real, real high, then this game should not be ranked very, very, very high. So what we're doing is just having some fun and saying, what if we were in charge and we were able to take 10 games and say, you're out. And we're going to put in our own games. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be looking at this as what games could I add to the top 100, which would give it a much better, where I could tell my friend at work and say, hey, if you're interested in board games, go to Board Game Geek. And if they look at the list, they would see all kinds of different kinds of games, and they would be different variety and give them a much better sampling of what is out there in the board game community. There is a lot of games that aren't even represented very well in the top 100. Wargaming is specifically, sports gaming is specifically. Those games are not well rated, and they're not going to be in the top 100 of all time. Does that mean they're bad games? No, absolutely not. It's just that they don't have 50,000 people voting for APA Baseball to be in the top 100. I don't see a huge clamoring for, Stratomatic Football to make it in the top 100 games of all time. It's just the community, the sports gaming community, is a much smaller segment of the general population that is at Board Game Geek. I think if we had a Sports Game Geek website, it would be all sports at the top of the game, at the top of the page. If we had a War Game Geek webpage, it would be all war games at the top. Board Game Geek is supposed to represent board games as a whole, and board games in general for everything, including war games, including sports games, including Euro games, including Ameritrash games, including every kind of aspect that should be there. And it's not. You would have to go down quite a bit to get to some of these games, as you're going to see here shortly, as we're going to be trading out some of the games in the top 100 for games that I would like to see in the top 100. So, without further ado, that's kind of the backstory. Again, this is nothing against the people, against Board Game Geek. This isn't to slam them. This is to have fun and just say, hey, listen, these are the games I would get rid of, and these are the games I would add. And if you want to put in the comment section down below the 10 games you would get rid of and the 10 games you would add, that'd be great, because I'd love to hear your thoughts and your opinions. Better yet, if you're a YouTuber and you want to do a YouTube video and show off to the world and say, hey, I'm following up to Jester, and this is the 10 games I would remove, and this is why, and these are the 10 games I would add. There we go. All right. Without further ado, let's get into it. Well, I should say this one last thing, and I apologize. I will get into it shortly here. If you go and look at the top 100 list, again, there is going to be, I thought, for me personally, it's going to be pretty hard to find 10 to take off. It was not hard at all. It literally was not hard. I probably could make this a top 15 or top 20 list without batting an eye. I have played probably 95% of these games in the top 100. I own probably 95% of these games. I know and have played most of these games. Or I've played their sister game, or, a game in the system. And I can see, there's a theme that is generally accepted among the board game elite society, and that is medium to heavyweight Euro games that take a long time to play and have a lot of mechanics that is going to have a lot of strategy that the players are going to have to deal with. So that's kind of the theme, and I think it should be more fine-tuned for the whole everyone out there to be accepted. And there's, in my opinion, a lot of great games that are missing. So let's get to it now that we all understand what we're doing. And as you can see up here, we're going to have the list flashing by, as this is according to Board Game Geek as of tonight, 11/15/2024. So November 15th, 2024. And all right, so let's just start at number one. And I don't have these in like 1, 2, 3, 4. This is like my number one. This is my number two. This is number three. No, what I'm going to do is just go from the bottom. Just so happens this is the first one that I added to the group, and then going on from there. All right. So the first one that I would trade out is number 16, Great Western Trail. The reason I would trade this game out is it's a great game, don't get me wrong, but it is superseded by Great Western Trail 2nd Edition, which is already on the list. I think it's in the 30s or 40s, and I don't think we need to have Great Western Trail and Great Western Trail 2 in the top 30. We really don't. There only needs to be one. And I think Great Western Trail 2 is much better. And so for that reason, I would get rid of Great Western Trail. And I would replace it with number 114, which is pretty low. It's almost in the top 100 itself. And that is the Final Girl system. It is a great overall system. It is a solo-only game system. So again, we're adding some new variety in the top 100 games because again, you don't see a lot of that in the top 100. It's a solo game system. There is so many different scenarios you can play with so many different enemies, so many different locations. It gives you great variety. It teaches players how to manage different resources. It's an awesome, awesome game. And the more I play it, the more I want to play it. Although it's almost in the top 100, it's not quite there. I would like it to be in the top 100, and I would get rid of Great Western Trail to replace it. My number one. Number two. Two. Again, I'm not doing these in any specific order. Just number two is the second sheet that I created. Number two is I would get rid of number 46. Crokinole. I would get rid of Crokinole, and this is a game that came out in 1876. It is a very interesting game where you're flicking these little discs towards the center and trying to get pieces in the center, and you're trying to flick your opponent's disc out. It's all about dexterity, and it's about kind of like bowling, and you're trying to score points, but you're doing this on a little table like this. You can do this with a couple marbles and a piece of string. You don't need a board game for that. And I don't think like flicking discs and stuff should be like that high in the board game community. I know a lot of people really, 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 really love this game, and I appreciate that. And it's been around for a long, long time. I just don't think it's like the 46th best board game of all time. People say, oh, well, it's because it's 1876. Well, chess has been around for 1,200 years. You don't see chess in the top 100 games of all time. So I don't think Crokinole or Crokinole or however you pronounce it should be in the top 100. Again, because I just don't think that flicking discs and stuff is a board game. Let's be honest. It's not a board game. It's a training mechanism for the Indians, I guess. I don't know. I would replace this by, for sure, absolutely, number 131, Dominion, who it should be in the top 10, let alone the top 100 games of all time. Are you kidding me? Dominion? This is what started the whole deck building craze. I can't not believe Dominion is not ranked higher. I know there's a lot of people out there that go, oh, it's just a deck building game, and all this game does it so much better. No, it doesn't do it better. It might change the mechanics, but it doesn't do it better. That's a joke. Dominion, unfortunately, should be in the top 10 games of all time, let alone the top 100. And it's a damn shame it's not, and it shows that the board game community out there doesn't. They only think with one aspect in mind instead of keeping it open to understanding the relevance of games, understanding what it brings to the board game community, and understanding what it brings to adding new people to the board game community. Crokinole does none of that, and Dominion has brought more people into board gaming than any other game I can probably think of besides Catan and maybe a couple others. Dominion should be in the top 100 of all time, without a doubt. Number 3. And I'm going to close up the other ones. I would get rid of number 51. This is On Mars. And it's a really interesting, deep game. I actually have this game, and I'm trying to get it out and play it several times. But this is another one of these. It's going to take you 3 to 6 hours to learn how to play it, and then it's going to take you between 3 to 5 hours to play it if you're very quick. It is a huge monster game, and I don't think there are so many huge monster games on the list. I know this is, it's not highly rated compared to all the other games by Vital Lacerda. He's got so many other games like Lisboa. He's got Kanban EV, which are really, those games are really, really rated. Even the Gallerist is really, really high rated. When you see people and they talk about Vital Lacerda games, not a single one I've ever come across has mentioned On Mars as it's one of his top 3 or 4 game designs. It's just not. And I can't understand why this game is still in the top 100 if you have all those other games from Vital Lacerda on the list. I would get rid of this for sure. Again, I think there should be some heavy Euro games on the list. Lisboa is there. Kanban EV is there. And I'm trying to remember. In fact, Kanban EV, we can see right there, is at number 45. And I think the other, there's even another one. Those Boia is 59. And maybe we'll see the other one pop up. But he doesn't need another one on Mars. Again, when you look at the On Mars one compared to the other games, it's just not good design. There's just not a lot going on with it. It is a lot of pieces just to, you're trying to decide if you're going to do things on the surface or if you're going to use your rocket ship to go back out into space. I've wanted to try this game, but it's just, I just can't commit to the time to try and get it to the table. I would replace this for sure with 340. This is a game called Imperium Class, and we just played it the other night on the channel. It comes with 8 different factions. You can play all those factions against one another. It plays solo great. You can also play it with 2, 3, or 4 people, but I would recommend you play it solo. But again, I'm adding this to top 100 because it has a solo component for people. Not a lot of games in the top 100 do. And this one is all about how learning different factions, playing against other factions, seeing and trying to learn how your faction plays. It is an all-time classic, and I cannot believe this is at 340. This makes my heart bleed that it's that low on the list, and you have On Mars at number 51. It drives me crazy. If I was in charge, these two would switch spots for sure. Let's move on. Number, let's see. We bring up this and slide this up, and we'll get this one. Boom. Pandemic Legacy Season 0, number 52. The reason this is on the list is because there is Pandemic Legacy Season 0, Pandemic Legacy Season 1, Pandemic Legacy Season 3, 2, or whatever. There's like 3 or 4, as you can see there, number 2 on the list. Pandemic Legacy Season 1 is number 2. We don't need Season 0, a Season 1, and a Season 2 all in the top 100. Yes, it's a great game and a great system, and you get to, experience You get to experience the legacy game and opening new packages and stuff like that. Well, you can do that with Season 1, which is the second ranked game. We don't need another one in the top 100. It's crazy. Again, there's nothing in Board Game Geek that says, oh, if this game is in the top 100, then this game can't because they're the same game. No, there's nothing like that. I'm there saying, get it out of here. There's no reason to have it. It's a great game. Okay, don't get me wrong. Perfectly fine. Awesome. But we don't need 3 of the same games in the top 100. And I would replace that for absolutely sure with number 248, Combat Commander Europe. Again, when you look at the top 100 games of all time, there is 0, and I'm talking about 0 Hex Encounter war games on the list. If you are going to tell me that Board Game Geek should incorporate all kinds of board games, including Euro games, Ameritrash, sports games, war games, why are they not rated higher? And it's just because the community is much smaller for wargaming and sports gaming and some of the other outlining. And the community for the Euro games is much bigger, so they get drowned out. And it's a shame that we have 2 or 3 pandemic legacies in the top 100, and you have 0, count them, 0 Hex Encounter war games in the top 100. It's a shame, and it doesn't give the people that are going there a variety, and it doesn't show them what the whole board game community is all about. All it does is show them a finite instrument of what board gaming could be like. I'm trying to expand that out and show everyone what it could be like if you include other more important games. Combat Commander Europe is chaos in a box. If you enjoy wargaming, there's no dice. It's all card. The dice are on the cards is what I'm trying to say. And it is Hex Encounter, and you're going to be activating and doing different things on your turn to activate your units. I was actually supposed to play Combat Commander Europe tonight with a fella, and unfortunately he couldn't make it. So we had to postpone it till next week. So we're going to get some Combat Commander Europe for you guys on the channel. And so hopefully, we'll try and show that game off and see if we can get some more votes for this game and move it a little bit higher on the chain. So another exchange for me, number 4 would be Pandemic Legacy Season 0. You're out. Combat Commander, welcome to the team. You're going to be in the number 52 spot. Next up is a game called Blood Rage, and this is one of the few games that I honestly have never played, and I can say again, in the top 100, I've played 95 of the top 100 games. This is one of the 5 games that I've never played, so I don't know much about it, but when I click on the screenshots of it and stuff, it did not inspire me at all. 0% inspiration. And again, because I don't know much about it, I would get rid of it. And number 54, it's gone. And I would replace that with, again, another war game. This one is going to be called Paths of Glory. It is, in my opinion, a classic war game that everybody that's interested in wargaming should at least try once or twice. It's got a great design. It is a full-scale war from the start of World War I moving forward, and you have to resource management. You got card management. You got different actions. All the cards can be used for different things, and you have to decide how you're going to be using the cards. It gives players, it would, if it was in the top 100, it would give players a lot more to think about when we're talking about using cards in different actions and in different ways and different mechanics. Plus, it would introduce them point-to-point wargaming and battles and charts and using CRT systems, and some of them might learn some things about what happened in the history of World War One. So I would definitely exchange Blood Rage. Again, I can honestly say I don't know anything about this game, Blood Rage. It's one of the few games that I don't know anything about. And if I don't know about it, and I've been board gaming for 25 years, I can't believe that it's a really great game and it should be number 54 if I've never heard of it. If I've never heard of a game, it means it's probably either just came out or isn't very good, one or the other. Most games I would tend to say that I've heard about and I know about, and I can give you some information about them. If we talk about any of the other games on this list, I'd be able to give you a dissertation on every single one of them. Just about every single one. No, I haven't played them all, like Sky Team, number 53. Currently number 53. I have not played Sky Team, but I can tell you all about it. It's a 1 or 2 player game where you're working cooperatively to try and land a plane. I know everything about that. I've looked at the game. I don't own it, and I haven't played it, but I know what this game is like. Blood Rage, couldn't tell you anything about you. Bye-bye, you're off the list. Next up, boom. Another Pandemic Legacy Season 2. Goodbye, your brother Season 1 is out the door. You're out the door too. We don't need 3 of them. Again, 3 in the top 100 is obsessively showing that the community is super hyper-focused on one thing and one thing only. And people in the board game community should expand their horizons and try to get other games on the list and not go, oh, Pandemic Season 2, we should rate it just as well as we did Season 1 and just as well as Season 0 because it's the same game. No, if I was in charge, gone, out the door. I would replace it with number 228. I cannot believe this game is that low either. Dead of Winter. Oh my gosh, Dead of Winter is such a good game. It does play somewhat okay solo, but it's not specifically designed for solo. You can get by and play it solo. There's some solo variants that people have created. It's more meant for 2, 3, or 4 people. And when you have 4, 5, or 6 people, it is one of the best games ever created. It has that hidden mechanic system like Battlestar Galactica does, where you may or may not have a traitor amongst you that has a different objective than try to rescue everyone. No, they might be trying to do something else, or they might be trying to win, but also, before everyone wins, somebody needs to die. So, they can't come out and say, oh, you need to die before the end of the game so I can win. No, they obviously are trying to find a way to do that. And I know a lot of people don't like that hidden traitor mechanic, which is fine, but there is 0, I believe, 0 of those games in the top 100, and I believe there should be one of those games in the top 100. Battlestar Galactica, I don't believe, and I will double check, but I don't believe Battlestar. Let me see. Let's just double check because I don't want to say I'm wrong. Battlestar Galactica is number 106, so it is not in the top 100 either. So we do not have a single hidden traitor mechanic game in the top 100, and there should be one in there. And if I had to only choose one, it would be a toss-up between Dead of Winter and Battlestar Galactica. I love them both, but because Dead of Winter is so low rated, number 227, I would have to put that one in over Battlestar Galactica. And even I enjoy this one. I played it a lot. I've played the solo. I've created a solo mode for it. I'm trying to get the word out for people to get a hold of this game. You can get it for a pretty reasonable price, and it's a way better game than Pandemic Legacy Season 2. Way better game. I would highly recommend it. Get you a copy of Dead Winter if you can. It's a great game. So that is, what number are we on? We're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was number 6. Again, I'm just doing them in This isn't like number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6. This is just the 6th one that I created. All right. Number 7, 4 to go. It's going to be this one. I just got done talking about this game, which was a Blood Rage. And Blood Rage was one of the few games that I've never heard anything about. And I couldn't tell you anything about them. Well, when I was going through the top 100 list and I came across Mechs and Minions, I'm like, well, it's probably a miniatures game, and I don't do miniatures, so I clicked on it, and I'm sure there's all kinds of mech miniatures that you can purchase and paint and do all kinds of stuff with them. And I'm like, no, I'm not interested in this one. You're out. Top 100 of all time. I don't even know how. Mechs and Minions might be a great game, but miniatures in the top 100 board game community? What are we doing? What are we doing? I'm going to have to direct some people because this is crazy that this is in the top 100. Absolutely crazy. It's got 17,000 votes. That's why. Now, I mean, sure, it's probably rated really high and there's a lot of people that really love it, but come on, miniatures, mech miniatures in the top 100 of all time over, like, say, Eldritch Horror? Are you kidding me? I wouldn't hold Mechs and Minions. Couldn't even hold a candle up to Eldritch Horror. Eldritch Horrors should be in the top 20 games of all time. And I cannot believe it's 121. I'm kind of disappointed again in the community. This is a cooperative, which again, you don't see many of those in the top 100 because of the ultra focused laser people that are voting on this. They don't think outside the box. Eldritch Horror is a cooperative work, using different characters to try and overcome a challenge. A very extremely hard game with all kinds of different interactions and different things you can do during your turn, and watching as the events unfold and tell you a story and create a story for you. There's not a lot of that in the top 100, and there definitely needs to be. I would have put Arkham Horror 2nd edition in there, but I decided on Eldritch Horror because I think Eldritch Horror is more popular with the younger community, and if we're trying to get more people into board gaming and stuff, I would go with a younger, more hip game that more people would enjoy. Although I would enjoy Arkham Horror 2nd edition more, I also respect Eldritch Horror, and I would substitute either one of those. I chose Eldritch Horror because, again, it's more of the kids game, and the kids would play it much more than the 2nd edition of Arkham Horror. So, my replacement, Mechs and Minions for Eldritch Horror for sure. Come on, people, what are we doing out there? Next up, number 8. Race for the Galaxy. Alright, so this was debatable about whether I would take this off the list or not. Let me actually slide this over just a little bit because it's covering up. So it was a little bit debatable there for a little while. Was I going to take this one off? Was I not going to take this one off? And yes, I can understand why this is rated really well. But here's the problem that many people have had with Race for the Galaxy is it takes forever to learn. And it takes forever to play the first 10 to 15 times because there are 1,000 symbols that you need to learn. Every symbol is different and every symbol does something differently. So every card, this is the way you play Race for the Galaxy. You draw a card, you spend 30 to 40 seconds trying to understand what that card is trying to say. You finally give up and ask somebody, what does this card do? Because I have no idea what it's representing. And that's how your first 8 to 10 games of Race for the Galaxy go. It's a great game once you get over the learning curve and you get to understand all the iconography of what's going on, and you understand how things interact with one another and all that. But it is a slow slog of a game that takes forever to teach new people and takes forever for somebody new to learn how to play. And it's going to take them 10 times to play it before they feel comfortable playing the game. And that's not a game that should be in the top 100, to be honest, in my opinion. So for me, it would be out. I would replace this with much better iconography, much better much better way of handling what Race for the Galaxy is doing. A far, far, far superior game called Cartographers. And this one is so good. I love this game. I'm glad it's at 156. I wish it was higher in the top 100. But if it was up to me, I would replace Race for the Galaxy, no problem, with Cartographers. Cartographers, you can play 1 to 1,000 people at the same time. It's all about flipping up a card and then deciding how you're going to build that on your map. And then you flip up the next card and you have to build the next piece on your map. And you do that throughout the round, and then you're going to score different scoring parts 4 times. You're going to go through 4 seasons. And once those 4 seasons are done, it's game over. So the game lasts anywhere from a half an hour to an hour. You can play it from 1 to 1,000,000 people. It's easy to understand. You can pick up the iconography in this game in like 5 seconds, maybe 10 seconds, which is way better than Race for the Galaxy. And again, if I had a choice, I would remove Race for the Galaxy and put in Cartographers. Much better game, in my opinion. Next up, number 9. I believe we're coming up on number 9. Android Netrunner. Okay, so this game had a great following and it had a great time and it did a lot of really good things and it got a lot of people in the community and it got people into deck building and it did a lot of really good things. But that was back in 2012. Are you kidding me? This game is 12 years old and is still in the top 100 of all time. Yes, it was a great game back in the day. Highly, but 2012 to 2018, I mean, top 100 for sure. But I mean, again, this game had its cycle. It ran through its cycle. People don't play it still. As far as I know, I haven't seen anyone play it in any significant time on any YouTube channel. I haven't heard anyone talk about it for years. I mean, the reason it's still in the top 100 is because it's got 30,000 votes. Of those 30,000 votes, half of them are probably 10 out of 10. And that's the reason it's still up there. Board Game Geek needs to, if it was up to me, they need a full clean wipe. Whoosh, we're going to wipe everything clean. And today we're going to revote. You start revoting for your things. And I bet you the top 100 would be completely, well, no, I would say 50% of it would be different. The other 50% would be the same, but 50% would be different. And I know this one would be gone, and I would replace it with a much better, much more interesting game in Lord of the Rings, the card game, number 172. So you say, Jester, this game came out in 2011, and that game went through its cycle. What's the difference? Here's the difference, my friends. Lord of the Rings, the card game, they are still releasing stuff for this game. They haven't released anything for Android Netrunner in probably 10 years minimum. 10 years they haven't released anything for that game. They're still releasing things for Lord of the Rings, the card game. They are updating the packages so that you can now get where's mine? I could show you, but you can get the campaign information in one box. You get the character in another box. You don't need to track down 50,000 little packages all the time. It's still being released because it's still being played. It's a solo game, which Netrunner isn't a solo game. It's only competitive. Lord of the Rings, the card game, is a much better game. And I bet you if we go back to 2014 or 2016, I bet you Lord of the Rings was rated higher than Android Netrunner. How Android Netrunner is still number 74 is beyond baffling. Nobody plays it as far as I know. I haven't seen anybody talk about it. Nobody mentions it in their top 100 games of all time. Sure, it was a awesome. Again, I'm not trying to take anything away from this game. It was an awesome game, and it brought a lot of people in the community, and there was deck building and a lot of mechanics it introduced to people and competitiveness, and it was awesome for about 10 years. Then it just stopped. It's died, and people moved on. They said, okay, it was great for its time, but I'm not going to the 2024 Android Netrunner Championship. It's just not a thing. But there is the Lord of the Rings, the card game, which is still being released, still being updated. It's a much better game, in my opinion, because it's competitive. And it's a cooperative game that you can play solo, solitaire, I guess I should put, or solo, or 2 people, or 3 people, or 4 people. There is deck building. It does everything Android Netrunner does, but better. It should be on the list. And last but not least, holy cow, we're getting to the end of this sometime today. Here it is. It is Clank Clank Legacy Acquisitions Incorporated, which is number 22. So it's very, very highly rated, and a lot of really people love this. And I appreciate what it's trying to do. It's taking Clank and it's adding a whole legacy part to it. So you're going through a story and you're pulling envelopes out and you're reading things, and then you're destroying cards, and then you're creating names for towns, and you're doing all that fun, interesting things. It's just not, in my opinion, there's already Clank in the top 100, and there's also Clank Catacombs in the top 100. We don't need a third version, and I don't think Clank Legacy, in my opinion, is that good, to be 100% honest. If you want to do a legacy game, do Aeon's End Legacy. It's a much better legacy game, in my opinion. Again, this is all subjective. That's why we're doing this. I think it's a much better game. Aeon's End is a much better legacy game than Clank is. Clank is just, Clank Legacy Acquisitions is a fine game. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, it doesn't write the ticket home for me. It just doesn't do anything to make it stand out. I might play a mission, I might play 2, and then I'd probably put it back in the box and never do anything with it again, which is how I play most of my legacy games. I just don't find them very interesting. In my opinion, I would get rid of this and replace it with 212 Railways of the World. If you're trying to get people together and you're trying to get them to try new things, and you're trying to have them resource management, and you're trying to get them to think and strategy wise and do all that fun stuff. Now, Railways of the World doesn't have a legacy element to it, but there's all kinds of different maps you can buy and all kinds of different add-ons you can get for it. So it's kind of like that, where it changes the board every time you sit down and play it, because it's a different map and you're going to have different strategies and stuff like that. So while it's not a strict change out 1 for 1, it is close enough, in my opinion, that again, we don't need 3 Clanks in the top 100. What are we doing, community? It's ridiculous. Start branching out, and again, it would probably behoove Board Gamer Geek to completely get rid of the system, the ranking system, and start again every 5 or 10 years to show people what is now currently a good and interesting game that they should try to get into. And maybe we can get some fair and unbiased rankings that way. And that's why we're kind of doing this, is because this game, the system is broken. Let's admit it. If you are on Board Game Geek, again, this is not against Board Game Geek. I love Board Game Geek. I got nothing but the respect for them, and I appreciate the time and trouble and effort they put into their site. It is just, their site attracts the top people in board gaming, and those top people want the same kind of very specific Euro medium heavyweight, 2 to 3 hours, same kind of mechanics, same kind of thing over and over and over again. If we had a Pandemic Season 4, a Pandemic Season 5, a Pandemic Season 6, they would probably also be on the list, because those games resonate with the people that are there. And there's, again, nothing wrong with that. If there was a War Game Geek community, I'm sure all the war games would be at the top of the list. And maybe, we have to, sports game community as well. So these would be 10 games, very simply, 10 easy games I'd be able to take out of the top 100 and replace them with much, in my opinion, again, this is just subjectiveness, much better games with a better overall feel to give people a better understanding of the games and what is relative and what is important in the board gaming community, and what is still what I would consider a classic game system, and kind of replace some of the older, less popular, ancient games that just don't deserve the top 100 spots, but they're sitting there because there hasn't been games that got enough votes to outrank them. And that's the only reason. And it's a darn shame. But that's my look and fun little project on if I was in charge and what I would do to fix the list and take some of the games and say, okay, if this game is on the top 100, great, but you can't be on the top 100. You're out. And then kind of fix some of the older games and just kind of make it a much, if I was going to tell Bob at work and say, go to Board Game Geek, and you'll see, a lot of the really good games. And no, it's not. You don't see a lot of the really good games. What you see is a lot of really good Euro games that are 2 to 4 hours long that have the same kind of mechanisms in the game. That's what you see over and over and over and over and over again. You don't see one sports game in the top 100. You don't see one Hex Encounter war game in the top 100. Are you telling me seriously that some of these games in the top 100 are better than the best Hex Encounter war game? Or are you telling me there are more votes for the crappy games than there are for the votes for the good games? That's the difference. So thanks for coming by. Thanks for watching again. If you have a thought, comment, suggestion, let me know in the comment section down below. Otherwise, if you want to leave your 10 games that you would replace, you've seen the list the whole time we've been doing this. The list has gone by. You can write down the 10 games you get rid of and the 10 games you replace them with. And I would love to see that. That'd be awesome. Or, again, if you're a YouTuber and you want to do it on a YouTube, put your video in a link and email me. You can see my Facebook and my email address right there. And you can email me your video, and I'd love to listen to what you have to say. Love to hear it. Thanks, everyone, for coming out. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys soon. Until then, my friends, take care of yourself, and don't you forget, I will see you all down the line. Bye for now.